We are live right here at the RPT convention in Houston, Texas, 2026. We're with Senator Adam Hinojosa. We are really excited that ban on taxpayer funded lobbying has made the list of the final 15 legislative priorities for delegates to consider here shortly. They're going to vote on their top 8 tomorrow morning or maybe later this afternoon. But between now and then, we've got an opportunity to encourage people to do exactly that. So Senator Hinojosa, tell people you have taken the mantle up on banning taxpayer-funded lobbying. Why should everybody here at convention who's a delegate, and then even the folks at home, why should they do the same? Why is this an issue that we should care about?
Well, in a nutshell, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, the opportunity to speak a little bit about this. In a nutshell, the practice of taxpayer-funded lobbying is essentially taking our hard-earned dollars that we have to pay in taxes and utilizing it to weaponize our own government for more government.
That's right.
And that is just fundamentally wrong. When I got here last session, I was so glad to join in the fight. We have a champion in Mays Middleton that started that. I was able to join author that second special, trying to get that through. We got it passed in the Senate and then, couldn't get all the way through. But I'm so excited to pick up the mantle and get this done next session.
So what I'm hearing here at convention is that, we should consider maybe carving out a whole bunch of stuff. And everybody wants carved out. So I guess my question for you is the bill that has passed your chamber 3 or 4 times now still an appropriate one that will pass again? I think so.
Oh, for sure that. But, I've been with my conversation with now future AG Mays Middleton.
Yeah.
We do want to also.
Who, by the way, if y'all can overhear, is wrapping up an interview at a booth just across the way there.
Yeah.
So.
What we've discussed that can make the bill a little bit better is to add in some civil penalties and AG authority in that. And so I think we're going to add some of that language. But beyond that, no, we as you know, in regular session, it got gutted a little bit.
Sure.
And we were trying to hold the line, but we came back in special and passed it clean. So we intend on doing that again in the Senate, again, with some additional language.
We were so pleased at TFR, at least, to see you guys hold the line.
Right.
I've asked several times. I served on the Legislative Priorities Committee, and I asked several people testifying to this issue, would you settle for a bill by any means? Or do you want the complete ban that we've been trying to pass for 3 or 4 sessions now? And overwhelmingly, people want a real ban that stops the practice from top to bottom for every Texan. Nobody's money, regardless of where they are in the state or what jurisdiction they're in, should have to deal with that. Adam, tell us some other stuff that you're working on. I know you're not a one-issue guy. Yeah. You're a senator, and perhaps you guys take up more issue per capita than maybe any other deliberative body.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you're excited to work on. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff we should expect to see you contributing to next session.
Well, we're doing a lot in district. As you know, I'm the first Republican to hold Senate District 27, so I have a lot of district-sensitive issues like water in Corpus Christi, where I live.
Right.
We've got 2 major ports, SpaceX, Tesla. We've got King Ranch, so screwworm issue is on the table right now. We're really working on a district Texas response in addition to what we're cheering on with the federal government response. So there's a lot of district issues that I'm working on, but as it's germane for what you guys do, property tax obviously is something we're highly concentrating on. This ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying is one way to get us closer to that.
For sure. It's a great step.
It's a great step.
The elimination of property taxes becomes a lot more doable when you take taxpayer-funded lobbying off the table.
But there are some steps there to kind of rein in some wasteful spending. I've got some bills that I presented in my first session that I'm starting to be able to get to explain a lot more now. I think we have a better shot this next session, like standardizing school building models so that we're not building Taj Mahal schools, concentrating on the INS portion of our property tax, not just the M&O.
That's right.
And so, making sure that we're not deferring maintenance that we should be paying out of M&O and stuffing it into those very high bonds.
That's right.
So there's a couple of pieces with all that, zero-based budgeting, at least for the stuff that is coming out on sunset. I mean, there's a lot of fiscal policy that I presented first session that didn't get too far, but we're going to keep working at it.
Everything you just listed is music to taxpayers' ears, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Reining in these out of control local jurisdictions that have been abusing taxpayers for a long time. You mentioned the INS side. this is a part of the property tax equation that I think maybe over the last 8 to 10 years has been left out of the conversation. We have called, and we're really happy to hear Governor Abbott chime in on this too recently, that maybe bonds should have 2/3 voter approval. Tell me, what kind of impact would that have for the taxpayer, protecting them from these abusive bonds? You mentioned, throwing even M&O stuff into these bonds, or in some cases, like the marketing expenses for the bonds are wrapped in the bonds. There's some really abusive things happening there. Talk to us about what an impact that would have reining in that side of the property tax equation.
That would be huge. We don't talk enough about it, as you said. And, the reality is that it has gotten out of control. To a level that we really need to start having that strong conversation. If we want to even get to real tax savings, eventual elimination, if it comes to that, there's only two ways to do it: cut wasteful spending and make more revenue.
That's right.
Right. And so it is coming upon all of us electeds to recruit, if that's what we need, is a larger tax base. But we can't keep, I had a no new net revenue for our cities and counties.
Yeah.
And it's also getting around to explain how all this works to our municipalities, because they have a job to do as well. We got to assure them that they're going to have what they need, but we got to also explain extremely well what our expectation is from the state. We don't impose a state property tax. That's
right.
all on local municipalities and
That's
counties
right.
and ISDs and special utility districts.
Despite what you're hearing from some of the taxpayer-funded lobbyists, that's exactly
right.
the case.
And it comes full circle, because
Sure.
that's
our listeners know that.
Yeah,
you don't have to explain
full
it to
circle.
them.
But so it's something that I think is getting a lot more traction with our grassroots base. People understand it. Every time we brag about tax savings that we're taking literal sales tax revenue and trying to compress down our property tax on the local and county levels and ISDs, and we just can't afford to do it anymore to the level where people are going to see real savings. And we tout these wins, which are strong wins, that we're making strong moves at the state legislature, just to see the states not adopt no new net revenue levels, and the actual tax levy is still increasing.
That's right.
So it all makes us look silly as every time we try to do this. We've got to rein it in.
Yeah. So voters and delegates here would like to see more responsiveness, right, from lawmakers. That's kind of evergreen, always true. I think you and others have done a really good job being attentive, listening to folks. Tell me about what is the effect or the impact of these legislative priorities for you as a lawmaker, right? So now we've got 8 of them. This time it's going to be a little bit longer 8. There's going to be some more there to work with for you guys. Are you excited about that? And what does it mean to have feedback from delegates directly like that in the form of a legislative priority? Where does that factor into your role as a lawmaker?
Well, it touches home to me, as we talked about right before we started airing, is that I've been a state delegate since 2010, have participated in every convention since then.
Yeah.
And this is my first convention as an actual elected senator. I actually served on platform committee in 2016. So I understand the frustrations of going through these motions and working hard on priorities that grassroots really feel are important, just to not have enough movement. Although I will brag that in my first session, and thanks to all the great work of people before me, that we all worked together and we got probably the most priorities passed last session, and we want to continue on that road. So having things like a ban on taxpayer funded lobbying, all these very important issues that rank up in those priorities, we need to be paying attention to the grassroots and making that happen. So I'm excited to roll up my sleeves and get back to work next session.
It's going to be great. We're here with Senator Adam Hinojosa. Adam, anything for delegates and folks watching at home? Just maybe a parting word or something to encourage them, or something you're working on that you're excited to tell them about?
Well, I just want to wrap it up and answer the question I didn't quite answer earlier when you were talking about the impact on bonds and all that. People need to be paying more attention. That's what's going to happen here as we see that our tax bills aren't decreasing, as we see that we can do better. It is I don't mind my own feet being held to the fire. That is so important that we all are we are beholden to our voters and to our constituents, and we have to listen. And that is what is not even being asked anymore. They're not begging us to do it. They're not trying to compel us to do it. They are demanding that we do it, and we have to start listening and working to that end. So, how this impacts bonds and everything else, it matters. Get involved. become a delegate, come up to these conventions, make sure you're going to vote in all elections, including those bond elections, because those are generally very low turnout elections.
Yeah.
So looking at that to see how maybe we can consolidate that into a bigger turnout. All kinds of ways to try to. There's a lot of proposals out there. We're going to vet them all, but we just need you to stay involved, stay active, do your part. Hold our feet to the fire, but also come up and support us when we're doing what you're asking us to do.
That's right. I tell people sometimes the grassroots, they're really good at using the stick. Sometimes we could do a better job using the carrot.
That's right.
And we've got to make sure we tell people when they're doing a great job. You certainly are. We're at the 2026 RPT convention here in Houston. We've got State Senator Adam Hinojosa. We'll have more interviews just like this coming up real soon. Thanks for tuning in.